She's the hottest little hen ahead on the internet. Just say Julie.
That's me!
Ba-ba-ba!
Yeah! I guess I can start.
Sure.
Okay, welcome to Just Say Julie, the podcast. As my very, very special guest, I have Drew Droege, who is...
Hi, Julie.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Thank you so much for doing this. I mean, this
God,
is
thanks for having
this
me.
is a complete experiment because I don't have an
love it.
agenda with this podcast, right? It's not like, oh, we're going to do this. So I just thought I would talk to my friends that I truly love and see what happens. So I was trying to think, when did we meet each other?
You know, you were bringing that up the other day, and I don't remember. I originally thought it was when we did Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun, but I think it had to have been before that.
It was like I think it might have been. Was it Glitter in the Garbage? You had me as a guest.
Yes. Okay.
Right?
So that was before. I'm so bad, especially
I know.
dates. I don't know what it is. Dates between for some reason 2005, 2012.
Right.
Like I'm like I don't remember those weird. Like I remember tentpole dates,
Yeah.
and then I feel like recently I'm pretty good, and pre-COVID, post-COVID. But there's that weird chunk pre-21st century that I don't.
I know,
remember
from
very
2000
well.
until 2010. Like, what happened? I think it
I know.
was because I think I knew you a little bit, and then you invited me to be on your podcast.
You did it live. You did the one.
Yes.
I think we only did my podcast live one time, and it was you and Stephanie Courtney and Edie Patterson.
Right, who I didn't know and had never met.
You were so brilliant, and oh my gosh, the three of you together were so funny, and I remember that being just a blast at the Comedy Central stage that we did.
That's right. It was a blast, but the weird thing is I didn't know you very well. I didn't know them at all. I met them on stage, and like later I went, oh my God, I was on with like three brilliant people. I had no idea how amazing you all are, and have subsequently learned, right?
Well, I knew what I was going to do it live. I was like, I'm going to put heavy hitters in that I know are gonna kill it and do well together. I mean, that was my podcast where I brought people on and we did improvised scenes, and then we would kind of talk like this afterwards.
Right.
But it was so much fun to do that show, but it was also hard because you had to get people on who were improvisers, and I wanted to bring people on who kind of knew each other. And then when I did the live show, I knew that we're all pros, but it is hard to go out and do improv with people for the first time, even when everyone's good.
It was
sort of be like, I don't know how you play and what, and all that kind of
right.
weird
And
stuff.
I've since done improvs with them and you, and I'm so blown away. It's almost like, it's my dog, sorry, please excuse her. It's like, oh, you're on stage singing with, I don't know, Bruce Springsteen, but you didn't know who Bruce Springsteen was. And you're like, oh my God, what happened? How did that happen? So it was.
I obviously feel the same way about you. I mean, I just like forever I've known and loved you, and I just like there'd be so many times that we would be on stage together, and it would flash across. I'd be the worst actor, not committing, and I'd just be like, I'm on stage with Julie Brown. This is so cool.
That was so fun.
Truly. So I mean, honestly.
Oh, thank you. Well, that's how I felt too. We were in one of the most fun things I ever did. We made Homecoming Queen's Got a Gun into a musical. Kurt Kohler and I wrote it into a musical. And when we were writing it, I was like, I want to play Debbie because that's like the good part. But then it didn't make sense. Like, who sings the song, right? It didn't make sense.
Right.
So I very bravely gave up the part of Debbie as we were writing and played Julie, which was easy because that's my name. And and then we're like, who are we going to cast as Debbie? And it was, we didn't immediately think of casting, of who to cast. I mean, we really didn't. Are we going to get some comedy girl, comedy guy? And then we just realized you were the right part. You were the right person. And I'm so glad. I mean, I think you're so brilliant in that part, right?
So it's one of my favorite parts I've ever done. And I always try to, when people ask like stage shows, it's like anything. It is one of my very favorite parts because, I mean, I've loved the song forever, and but you never really think, but you get to play. I mean, Debbie starts off as like such a like popular mean girl, and she's like, and the genius to me also with that show is that, I mean, she goes, you made it about demon possession because in the light of school shootings and everything that's
Yeah.
happening, and obviously you can't be in light of those things. And so it's a very hard thing to do. And as somebody, I got to be on the TV remake of Heathers,
Oh, right.
which was brilliant, but it just was always canceled because of what was happening in the world. And I got it. It was such a really horrible thing because the show was an amazing evisceration of what's wrong with education now and
Right.
why kids are doing what they're doing. And it was certainly not making fun of anything that happened, but it was impossible for a show to be on that was at all comedic that dealt with that. And in the middle of that, you are doing a show. You wrote this song in the '80s when it was just such a wild, crazy idea that somebody would have a gun, and you made it work because first of all you cast. Everybody was way older than high schoolers.
Way older.
And casting a man as Debbie and like the whole thing, and then making it that she's possessed by a devil. It's like a Pazuzu thing that's inside her. We bring a Ouija board out, and I have this devil inside me, and so it lifted all sense of the darkness and the heaviness, and I thought that was really brilliant because I know a lot of people love Heathers the musical, but the musical version of Heathers to me doesn't quite work because it's very hard for me to wrap my brain around seeing people who look like high schoolers who are dealing with this kind of stuff right now in a musical that's supposed to be ha 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 funny. It's a very strange.
Yeah, no, it was the initially difficult thing when we started writing it. Like Kurt and I are going, okay, how do we make this be funny and not make people become, completely bummed out by it? So the only thing to do is make it into like an 80s horror movie, right?
Right.
Where you're so detached from it. So
yes.
Yeah.
And you couldn't change the words to your song that you have. I mean, like that also is lame to be like, oh, it now, because really, so you did brilliant things like when you said like Mitzi's head just did the splits. And so you have Mitzi get shot and then she comes to the second act and her wig is split in half. And it was like, and it was, so you kept true to your original song and yet made everything hilarious and bonkers in this way that really just made it everybody like, okay. And we can laugh at the ridiculousness of it versus anything that was sort of like, because I think had you cast a 16-year-old girl as Debbie and made it would have just been too.
Yeah. We had to do things so that you really were aware that you're watching this silly musical and you have a detachment from the horrible idea because of course when I wrote it, it was beyond absurd for that to happen.
Right.
And, I've had people challenge me like, can you even still sing that song? And I go, I've had mixed feelings about it, right? But then I also know that most intelligent people, would you be quiet? That's my dog Soupy. Most intelligent people understand it was written in the 80s. It's not, a call to arms. It's not anything truthful. It's absurd, and it actually is more absurd than ever because it's a ridiculous thing that happened, right? That happens. Right. That happens.
Well, and it is also about like that the stakes are so high, like who's going to get homecoming queen.
Yeah.
That I mean that's the joke. It's like it's just like because high school, it's like it feels like life or death, right. And it's not literally that.
No.
Hopefully and so that's I just thought that was I don't remember anyone calling us out for that when we did it on stage.
No.
I think people were immediately.
No one did. Like, no one did. That's what I was scared of that. But that's why we worked so hard to make it be ridiculous because I don't want to remind it. You don't want to do a comedy show and have everyone be bummed out and go, oh, that's horrible, right?
No, absolutely not. And you certainly don't want to be disrespectful to people who have experienced things like that in their lives. No. And it sadly is something that continues to go on. And it's like, this is it's also like, remember the 80s, remember how insane everything is.
Yeah.
How crazy that the 80s are back. The 80s have like the weirdest decade that people continue to.
I know, right? Because it was like bigger than life in a weird way. And the music, the actual music, most of it is so joyful, and it makes you happy, a lot of it, right? Just the tunes make you go. And I think for us, they make us remember this time where there wasn't a lot of really complicated things, well, besides AIDS, but there wasn't a lot of other things going on. It was super sad, and that was there, but I don't.
But it was also this real, like, I mean, I think, because, yeah, there was definitely darkness with Reagan and the
Yeah.
horribleness of the 80s. But there's also that thing where, you could just choose not to deal with things
You.
and just be like, turn on the radio and rock out. And I think it was that there was an innocence there,
Yeah.
for better or worse.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
now you can't help but see the news every day, and you turn your phone on and everything happens
Right.
it used to be a little bit more like, because for me that was my childhood, so I was always just like, I was, you know I knew no darkness in the 80s
I
personally. I
know
wasn't.
exactly. My son's always asking me, "What did you think of this politician or that?" And I go, "I don't know. I wasn't thinking about it." It's like, right?
Right.
I,
Well, and that was the thing that, Americans, and it's why we're in the situation we're in now, because none of us thought it. None of us were like, it's not, you
yeah.
go to Europe and you're like, it's so weird. Everybody talks about the government
Yeah.
and sips coffee, and it's like, we're just going to get drunk and dance. And it's like, had no idea what was horribleness was happening in our own backyards, because we were just like, whatever, man,
I
it's got a
know
good
you're right.
beat.
That's the cumulative effect of not thinking about it. But now
Right.
everything is thinking about it, and it's exhausting as hell, right?
Yes.
It's like I was just watching the
Yes.
news. I go, okay, I have to stop now because I'm starting to get depressed, and I have to be ready for my interview. So
Yeah.
how long have you wanted to be an actor? When did it start? Let me give my dog a dog
Really?
treat. Hold on, because she's horrifying. Sophie,
Oh,
shut
that's all right.
the fuck up. Jesus. Okay, this doesn't happen on the Oprah show. Okay, here.
Oh, it makes it even better.
I know. Okay, I just threw some dog treats at her. Okay, when did you decide to become an actor?
It really was when I moved out here, because I loved acting. I did my first play really when I was in high school
Mm-hmm.
in small town in North Carolina, Lincolnton, North Carolina, outside of Charlotte. And it was just a thing I thought would be a hobby. And then even through college, I didn't go to a theater school, and it was never presented to me that would be like a job that
Right.
somebody can have. Or it would be like, you're either going to be Brad Pitt or you're going to fail. There was no in between. It was like, the idea was like, oh, maybe you can do like regional theater here and there, but there would be actors that would come in and I that would come and talk to us, and they would always kind of present it like, if you can do anything else, do that. It's a terrible life. We have no money, we have no stability, and they try to scare you. And I don't know, I've gone back to my school and I've been sort of like trying not to be that person. I'd be like, I'm not trying to give you false hope. It's an insanely hard business. It's very frustrating and nothing makes any sense.
Right.
And the thing is that you have to just be okay with the fact that, like, you're gonna deserve things you're not gonna get, and then you're gonna get things that you maybe don't deserve. It's just it's a very strange thing.
Yeah.
But I spent a summer in London when I was right before my senior year in college. I did like a summer program, and I worked with, and it was the first like conservatory training I'd ever done. And I worked with actors, and I got to meet actors who were doing regional theater and like happy at it,
Right.
or doing voiceovers. And there was a girl in my class who was in Hellraiser 3, and she lived in LA, and I was like, that's so cool.
Right.
You were in a Hellraiser movie.
Right.
And I started to see like it's a doable life. And so I just had friends in LA, and when I graduated, I had to decide between the two, and I really wanted to study improv and sketch comedy. So I started taking classes at the Groundlings, and it sort of demystified it for me. And I saw people working in a way that it wasn't like, oh, have you made it? Or you're not, you haven't made it, or you're famous, or you're nothing. And I was like, oh, this person. And I just kept trying, and I was just enjoying it. And I had nothing else that I wanted to do. And I spent a long time not working, but I just kept going after it and just getting better and just loving it. And then I just was sort of like, this is kind of what I've always wanted to do. And I think back to being a kid who I lived in movies. Like I was always watching one movie at a time, one after
What were your
another.
favorites?
And
do you remember your favorites? Some of them?
As a kid, I loved, and I still do. I watched it the other day. I love Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh yeah.
I loved all the Freddy and Jason movies. I loved. And then I loved Clue. It's like trying to think of like what I really was like, what really, influenced me. There were a lot. Ruthless People was another
Oh my
big one for
God,
me
that was so good. Oh, I love that stuff.
So
That was
good.
so good.
And I don't think you could make that movie now because they're terrible people.
I know.
And talk about the 80s at its most decadent, like the most
Right.
80s movie ever.
Right.
It's just
It was
so
so
good.
funny. And I remember being really surprised at how funny it was. Like I didn't expect it. It was so good. No, you probably couldn't make that now because it's about abduction and like, yeah,
Right.
right.
Yeah, we're gonna kidnap the wife and we're gonna, and all the jokes about her, being heavy and then losing the weight and
Don't
all
do
that stuff. Now
any
I
of
think people
that.
now would
No,
be like,
no,
oh, we
no,
can't.
no.
But I really was. I mean, it was before I discovered John Waters movies, but I
Oh
I think
yeah.
Ruthless People was like my gateway into John
Right.
Waters, and I realized that I really loved terrible people, and then getting a comeuppance. Like the movie is making the judgment on them and saying this is a bad person,
Right.
and then there's John Waters movies. There's always a happy ending in his movies where you're like, they get what they deserve, and
Right.
the bad guys lose. And so I that sense of justice, and horror movies are that too for the most part, or they leave you
Oh
with that
yeah,
dread. But
yeah.
there is that sense of like, I think, and not knowing that I was gay, but always connecting with the final girl in the horror movies and
Right.
being like, I'm the one who's the nerd. I'm not having sex. I'm not. I'm always doing my homework. If Freddie came after me, I would know how to.
Yeah.
Like you relate to those narratives in that way. Like it gives you some sense of order and control. I think.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because you go, the slutty girl somehow in some universe deserves it, right? But you're being good, so
Oh
you
yeah.
don't. I know. The
Yeah.
only time that
Did you ever do? You were in some horror
I
movie.
was in
Did
a
you do
horror
horror
movie
movies?
called Bloody Birthday, and it's so terrible. And I have a topless scene, and I know, and
Oh my god, I
it's
love it.
come out on Blu-ray, and they wanted me to do the commentary, and I said no because I don't want to draw. I don't want to draw any more attention to this movie. But what's happened is,
Oh
like,
my
have
god,
you
that's
gone to any
so
horror
funny.
conventions where you've signed autographs?
No, I never have gone to a horror
Oh
convention.
man, you should.
But
Well, because
they seem wild.
they're kind of a combo of pop culture and horror. So you could definitely do
Right.
it.
Okay.
And I did it, and people had posters from the horror movie, and I was like, oh my god, my son doesn't. I don't even think know about it, because I thought he's got to be 45 before he finds out about this. But it was so I have one, and then the weird thing is, I feel like now I would like to be in another horror movie, but it was when I did it, it was super depressing because I just come from acting school, so I felt like
Oh.
I needed to internalize everything, right, and like really act
Hmm.
it. So there's this whole scene. I
Hmm.
get killed in it. I get an arrow in the eye. But there's a whole scene where
Oh.
my dad dies. So, and we're going to his funeral, and I'm like internalizing it, and by the end of the movie, I was so freaking depressed. I went, "This is not what I
Yes.
do. I do comedy." So, I didn't try to
Right.
get any more of them. I kind of wish I had
Yeah.
because now I appreciate them.
I feel as though I feel like, and it's something that like I guess it's never too late, and I could go take some classes and actually and get more of a like a method and more like a process because I want to do more drama, and I
Yeah,
occasionally get to do dramatic stuff. It's so rare, and I love it, and it's different, but I don't have that. Like friends of my like friends that have like Juilliard training, they have an ability to like truly act, and they know how to effectively, beautifully portray like that they're in these circumstances. And I still feel like I have to kind of go there
yeah,
in my own to make it feel real to me. I feel like I'm phony if I don't.
yeah.
And it is, you really are, your body doesn't know that you're acting. Sometimes it really can make you really
That
depressed. And
that's what happened to
I did
me.
it. I got to do a drama during the
Oh, what
pandemic,
was
and
it?
I was playing this really. It was called the Extinction of Fireflies, and it was
No.
it was just it was a play that we shot as a movie during. It was in Rhode Island. It was just four actors, and the writer director. We shot it at his house, and it was loosely based on him and his life and his relationship with some friends, and I was playing this really down, low and like sad, alcoholic, kind of a messy person, and I was so excited to get to do it, but I also and I was so happy to have a job during
Oh
pandemic. I
yeah.
was like, we hadn't worked at all. One of my best friends was in it with me. It was like, I got to be with him for a whole month. And I was like, this is so cool. And then I was like, why am I just down a lot? And I'm like, oh, you're living in this kind of place and you're not getting to be the life of the party. You're not being the fun one or the weird character who can put on a wig. And, and I don't know, there's something about it. I know it's actors are weird, but you can't help but like take it on sometimes. And I think you would have to be able to, like, I've seen Julianne Moore. Have you seen when she did, on Billy Eichner on Billy on the Street, where she's in Times Square and
No.
she's handing her monologues from movies that she's done, and she's in Times Square and immediately starts sobbing and going into all of these things and then snapping out of it. And I was like, granted, Julianne Moore, she's amazing, but there's something that she's able to tap into that she's protecting herself. She has to protect herself when she's doing that. There's no way she's literally going through all of that for herself in every moment. She'd have to be institutionalized. Like it would not be okay. But some of, thing that, that I don't know that I have that ability to not feel it every time, or I feel like I'm being phony.
I don't. I feel like whenever I've done drama, I end up really feeling it. And then I walk away depressed or freaked out by it. I mean, I did an episode of Quantum Leap where I was playing the stripper who saves a baby, but it was dramatic. And I know it sounds so stupid. I had a bubble dance and everything.
Oh my God.
And
I love it.
at the end of it, I got like deathly ill. And I know it's because of the part, because she was giving up this baby that wasn't even her baby. Oh. And I'm like, I don't have that thing either where you absolutely detach, I just don't. I don't know what that is because I go into it, right? Which is, I think, why I like doing comedy so much, because there's some sort of filter when you're doing comedy. There's a detached part because you're observing the character, you're observing the situation, right? And I don't walk away depressed from doing comedy at all, right?
No, you feel
joyful,
light from it.
Yeah.
Because I've never really understood when people say comedy is hard, dying is easy.
I don't understand that either. I don't get it.
I don't either. And I kind of, I'm like, okay, I don't really think, comedy is hard. And I don't always, there are many times I get up on stage and go, I just wasn't with me tonight. But like there's something, you're right. You're also able to play like a character.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, it is more removed. Whereas like in drama, I guess if you're in something where you have prosthetics and all that, it would be that. But usually in drama, it's like, if it's like on camera, like it's really close to you and you have to be really small and you go inside and it can, not feel great.
No, that's it. You have to go inside. Whereas with comedy, you are slightly putting something, you're projecting outward somewhat. You do have to feel it, but there's some kind of filter, and it's protective, I think. And I like doing drama. And then whenever I do it, like I did a one-day part in, it was a horror movie. That's right. Called The Demon Detective, during COVID. Okay. And I played a woman with Alzheimer's. So I know, I was like, I can't believe they're giving me this part, first of all. And I'm in this bed and my son comes in and he's talking to me and I'm trying to remember and trying to follow. And like, it was only half a day's work, but by the end of it, I was like, I just feel like crap. I just felt, I didn't even think I did a good job. But I think
I'm sure you were amazing. I want to see this. I would love to see
you. You will see it eventually, I hope, if they don't cut me out. But because you always, I even said to the producer and the director, I go, this is the part you could cut out of the movie, because it's like he's talking to his mother. You go, we need to save some time. Let's cut that out. But she goes, no, we won't for sure, because we want to have his backstory. And I'm like, okay, well, we'll see. But I had watched all these people like on YouTube, people with Alzheimer's, and found out, even really young people can get it, which shocked me, really young. Yeah. And it's so sad. It's so unbelievably sad. So I think just the sadness of it, that this woman's trying to struggle to figure out what's going on with what her son's saying. I felt really sad by the end of it. So I want to do more drama, but I guess there's a price to pay for it, you know? Or maybe what you're saying is right. Like Julianne Moore has that sort of box she can put herself in, right? That she can protect
Yes.
herself, you know?
Well, and you hear stories all the time of actors who are kidding and cutting up in between takes and then having to do some excruciating scene. I can't, like, I get very
Yeah.
focused. I'm that way with everything. Even backstage, with me backstage in a comedy show, I'm kind of like,
Yeah,
thinking about makeup. Like, I get very
me
focused. Like,
too.
I'm
Me
not,
too. I'm like, don't
and
fuck around.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm not, I don't really, but I also just, a lot of it is I don't trust myself
Yeah.
to go blah blah blah, and then whoa, when the lights are up or whatever I have to do, I feel phony. And if I don't feel like I'm somewhat like and I'm not going method and like sending bats to castmates like whatever Jared Leto or whoever, but like it's like I think there's something
You're
where
such a
you
freak.
know
I'm sorry. Yeah.
um good
I
lord,
know.
come on.
I know.
But yeah, I think there is a process that, or there's a guard that you'd have to do, especially if you're doing a play and you're doing something 8 times a week, and you have to just be like, I have to put that somewhere and leave it there,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then know that it's there when I can put it back
Have
on.
you ever had to like
And
be in a play
that's
where you
the hard
cried?
part.
Where you cried?
I had to cry in that movie that I just did, and I feel like there have been other times. Oh, in college I did, but I think about like all I wanted to do was be able to cry on stage. I thought that meant you were a good
Yeah.
actor, and
Yeah.
I got that's how I got laughed unintentionally a lot
Me
in college
too.
when I
Me
was trying to
too.
do drama. And oh my god, I was so bad. I was so over the top. And I remember we were doing Much Ado About Nothing, and I was the father who's hero who like I think had an affair, and at her wedding, and I'm screaming and I'm just acting my teeth off, and I was bad. And all I wanted was to make myself cry.
Right.
Like I didn't care about the truth of the scene, or like would this man do it. And also that thing about like maybe he would try not to cry because he's embarrassed. It's his daughter's wedding, so he's fighting tears like a real person would. No,
No.
I'm like actor McActor, and I'm like I'm feeling things. I was terrible.
That's so funny. I know. I always feel like, okay, then I'm really acting. I have cried on camera before, but it's a lot of work and it's a lot of mental gymnastics. So the idea of just going, turn it on, turn it off, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that, you know?
No, because you have to do multiple takes, and then you have to like suck them back up, and
I
then do it again,
know.
and then it's like
I know.
it's not my best
Me
thing to
either.
do.
I cried on camera in Camp Rock because I was like, I was, I was acting. I was the camp counselor, and I was acting really moved when the lead girl sang her song, and I cried. I gave myself that direction, and then of course they cut it, which is I'm like, I worked myself up into this whole thing, and they didn't even use it. But
Oh God, of course.
right, but it is a really hard thing to do, and I don't know. Maybe that's what we don't exactly know how to do, is how to tap into the instant. But everybody, the other thing is everybody really does work differently, right? Like,
Truly.
right? I mean, when you talk to people, you realize everybody has this different thing they do. Not everybody works the same way, right? So,
No, and different things work for different people. I mean, there's
right.
certain things you can try and go, oh, that just does not go for me at all.
I know. I know. I used to have an acting teacher. Do you know Roy London, that acting teacher? You might have heard of him.
No, I don't.
He taught me, Sharon Stone, Gina Davis, a bunch of people. But he would do this thing like you're getting ready to do a scene. He'd make you say ready so that you didn't go into a trance to do the part. Like to sort of like, and the thing is, I found that really hard because especially if you're doing drama, you are in kind of a trance in a weird way, or you have to be in one. So you go, okay, this obviously works for some people. Like you said, they joke around and then they're crying, right? I have no idea how to do that.
I mean, I feel like when I was doing my solo show, and I was doing it a lot, like when I got to like around the 100 performance mark.
Yeah.
I had that feeling that actors talk about where you kind of leave your body and you're watching yourself doing it.
Right.
And that was really the first time for me that had happened. And I felt so guilty when I came off stage because I was doing the same gestures and I was like thinking about what I had to do the next day,
Right.
and it was just coming out of me, and I felt so bad. And I go up to the stage manager after the show and I go, I am so sorry for tonight. I know it was terrible. I was so disconnected. And he was like, I didn't notice any difference.
No.
I was watching you and it didn't. And that's weird too, because I feel like we can be the worst judges of our own.
Oh,
Because I was like, no, you're not. Don't be nice to me. I know I was bad. Like I know it was so different from me up there.
right.
And then you realize, like, oh, it's kind of at some point not about you, the act of how you're feeling. And it's something that I really enjoyed about Groundlings training and I like about being a teacher there now is that we kind of don't ask the actors how they feel about it. We kind of go, doesn't really matter. Like what you're going through as an actor, it's about what came across.
No,
you know?
I 100%
So
agree because who
if
cares?
you felt like,
Yeah. Who cares how you feel?
right.
I know. I just want to
Right.
say that Drew
And,
was
you know,
my
there are times-
Drew was my improv teacher. Little side note for intermediate improv at the Groundlings. Okay, go on.
You were so wonderful, and you were in, and we always laugh about this, a class that hated me so much, and I nicknamed them District 9. And I knew you before
Yeah.
this class. We knew each other. We were friends. We had done things before, and so I knew. And you were such a great improviser, but also like you had the best attitude. And people in this class were angry, and they had started like a Facebook. They started with a different teacher.
Yeah,
I
that's
took
right.
over, and I was just the enemy. Like I've never had a class that I know of that just openly were just so hostile to me, and I got so contentious in there. And I was always so grateful for you every time because it's never like that. I'm teaching a class right now, and they're so lovely, and it's like, oh, this is so much fun. It's just once a week, and I've missed it during pandemic because I could not teach on Zoom. So I subbed a couple classes, but it just was not. I never felt like I was very effective.
It's very hard. Like you can do improv on Zoom, but there's a missing component, right? There just is.
I really, when I try to help people with characters, and I'm just like, and you can't really see people's bodies and what they're doing, and people are at home, and also at the beginning of COVID, everybody was just nervous about tomorrow.
Yeah.
Everybody was just like, this is all I have. I just want to. So I felt like an asshole, like screaming at people about their space work or their character. I'd be like, we're doing it. We're making an effort. We're getting out of bed today, and we're, so it was a different thing. But I'm so grateful to be back in person and be able to like play and like build off of energy in the room. And they were, they're a really fun group. But every now and then you get a group that you're like, oh, what did I do? Oh,
that
wow,
was
really?
crazy. That group. I'd never been in a group that was like that before because I've taken a lot of improv now, and it didn't make sense that they were being hostile to the teacher because why? Why? Right?
I think they were, in my memory, they were struggling, and I think there were just two people who were sort of the instigators, and everybody else was just scared and just kind of went along and just kind of as group dynamics go. That's how I don't think it was all of them were
I don't either.
out to get me, but I think it was like they were struggling. They had a different energy before with a couple classes with a different teacher, and I kind of came in, and it was easy because they all knew each other, at least in the sake of 3 or 4 weeks of classes together, to be like, it's all him. And we're all, but like, they wouldn't laugh. I yelled at them because they wouldn't laugh for each other. They wouldn't clap for each other. They weren't supportive of each other.
Yeah.
Because that was the thing. I was like, if you don't like me, I get it. But like, you could be, and I think it was a night class, and they would go to the bar after the class and they would just rehash. And I think it was all building a case against me. Like, it's why they all were. And sometimes that just happens, and you kind of go, all right, it's a lot more fun when everyone's happy. It was
weird. And I remember you wrote this email to everybody where you were yelling at everybody in the email. Remember? And then I wrote back going, Drew, don't be mad at me. I think you're wonderful. And then you wrote back saying, I didn't mean you. I meant those other people. And then, right?
I really didn't. You were the first person to write me back, and I was like, well, I'm not going to not put Julie on this email because that would be weird too if you heard that I wrote the class. It would be even weirder. I'm like putting everybody on it, but everybody's energy. And you were the first one, like, I am so sorry. And I was like, you're the light in the darkness.
That was so funny.
But of course, you'd be the first person to rub you back and go,
I
oh,
was
no,
panicked that you were
sorry. I was
mad
like,
because I knew that so many people were hostile, and I was like, codependent, trying to save everything, and then realized those
oh my
people were just
gosh.
jerks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've never done that to a class, but so I do remember that I've never written a class about their collective attitude before in 15 or more years of teaching. It was the one and only time I had to do that, when I was like, everybody needs, and a lot of it was that I was like, there was just no joy in the room for each other. And I was like, this is just going to be really rough moving forward. But
it happens, right?
Hey,
I mean, like sometimes you're in a group
It does.
and there's a spirit in a group and you can't completely control it. And sometimes it's amazing, right? You get into a group and you go, this is so fun, right? I mean,
this group now, there are things that they are saying that are making me laugh so hard, and they're just inspiring each other, and you see them really going, oh, wow. And you can't, it's so much easier as a teacher when you have a couple people who are getting it and
Right.
doing well, and they're having fun, and you see like, this is the goal. So when it's a collective sense of like, oh, we're failing, and our teacher and I remember I've been in classes and I've had those teachers that the only power you have is in your evaluation of a teacher, and the stakes are high at the Groundlings because you have to move up to the next level. And so all you have is that little, that survey at the end to go, well, my teacher didn't get me, or my teacher was really, and it's a very tricky thing. And, and sometimes we are. I mean, there are times I've had to realize that I've been too harsh or too, insensitive to something. And, and going into this new world of everybody, and I, on the first day, I was like, please let me know if anything I say or imply or let fly bothers you. And if you're not comfortable with talking to me, go to the school, like go above me if you really need to, like, let's deal with it as quickly as we can. And I want you to feel free, because it's everybody right now is, sensitive. And part of that I think is good. Part of it I think is ridiculous. And part of it I think is okay.
Yeah.
It's like, I kind of try to be of two minds.
I 100% agree with you.
People. We don't want to make.
I know, because the pendulum had swung so far in one direction. It's going to swing back and be annoying, and everybody's going to be sensitive for a while until people get a clue how to really behave, right? There's so many bad behaved people, and, a lot of people have a clue now. They're going, oh, I guess I shouldn't say that, So I agree with you that it
and it is a thing where, and different things trigger other people. I used to allow a lot of people to say things that used to bother me in terms of family members or other friends, and they would say things, and I try right now to call out people that I love more than anybody, and just to be like, hey, and I love you, and I don't think you're canceled, and I don't mean it doesn't mean like I never want to talk to you again, and I'm going to tell everybody, but I just last night I ran into a friend, and we were in a mixed group of people, and we were talking about a performer that he had seen, and we're both gay men, and he was talking to a group of like 4 other people, and he was talking about this performer being so gay that he took him out of like songs he was supposed to sing. He was like, he was so gay, and and it's that thing that we as gay men love to shit on each other about. And it's something that like straight people know not to do that now. You would not go like, oh my God, he was so gay, it was gross. So why do gay men still do it? And it's our weird, and it's misogynist. It's also saying that if you perform femininely, that's like less than. And so it does go back to women and how we kind of only respect the patriarchy. And it was a thing where I just kind of said, I was like, sir, there's some workshops I'd like for you to take, kind of be like, and he was like, oh, I can say what I want with that. I don't care. And I go, can you? And then I kind of like wouldn't let it go in a way. And he wrote me and said, I am so sorry for what I said. And I saw it really hurt your feeling. It was very lovely. And I wrote back and I said, I'm really sorry if I embarrassed you, because I didn't realize, I did not take stock of like, he's meeting people for the first time and I'm calling him out. And that's also like, again, it's like what he said was not like something that's like, we're not speaking again. That was so awful. He was just trying to make a joke. And it was something that like, my trigger is gay men who have such self-loathing that all we love to talk about is like, oh, you're gayer than I am, whatever that means, or you act more gay than I do, so ha ha ha. And it's like, I don't like that, and I think we don't move forward. I think we should embrace that. I've had to love that about myself and not hate myself for, being gay or having, feminine qualities, and embrace that and be grateful for that, for my sensitivity
Right.
and my femininity. But he was so gracious to out of his way to write me and say I have a problem with that. I mean, or say I'm sorry that I offended you, and then I was able to say, and we had a good conversation, and it's all good. So sometimes it doesn't have to end in a horrible
No,
thing, and it's
that's
like
actually really good. That means you both came to a more compassionate understanding of the other person. Like you're saying, I called him out
right,
and embarrassed him. I mean, that's kind of good too, like to think about that, because everyone who's righteous right now, they're not realizing they might be, embarrassing somebody. I mean, often people walk around saying stupid shit, but, right?
right, and I
Yeah,
do
we all
too.
do.
That's the thing. Like I say dumb shit, and I'm like, if I bother you, then tell me, and we can have a conversation. Because the last thing I would want, and again, I know a lot of in comedy, they're like, I go there,
I
and that's my
don't,
thing,
I
and I
don't
do
like
that, and
that.
I'm like, I don't, I don't like that, and I
No.
never have. I've never been into the like, you know, punching down thing, and I'm like, I'm all about punching up,
Yeah.
but I'm like, if we, I so, but if you don't let people know what bothers you, they'll keep doing it, and then somebody else might get so mad they never talk to you
Right.
again, and
No,
it can escalate in
I
a whole
don't think
different way. So just be really honest and
yeah.
say,
I don't think everything is ripe
yeah,
to be made fun of or everything can be funny. I mean, maybe in a certain context, a certain time, but a lot of times it doesn't work and you're really just hurting someone. You know what I mean? And so I know there's a lot of comedy people who think that you can just do whatever, but it sort of leaves completely out someone's feelings. You know what I mean? At times.
yeah, it totally. And I just think too, it's like challenge yourself to come up with like raise the bar and come up with a better, smarter joke that doesn't do that because you
Of
can do that.
course.
I mean, I think it's lazy sometimes to just like call someone out on their
Yeah.
otherness or their. It's sort of like, oh, you're just playing on stereotypes and things we kind of know. A lot of times it's like it's boring. Your edginess is dull because it's like we know that oh, okay, blah 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 blah. And there used to be the thing that a lot of male comics love to joke like women aren't funny, oh women, and they're like I'm kidding, I'm being ironic, and it's like you're kind of not really sometimes, and also it's
Oh,
not funny.
yeah.
So and women have been made to feel that they aren't funny for so long, and so only recently are women like in charge of television shows and movies and producing and all that and be able to direct. And so don't, even if you're being ironic and like, oh look, I've got so many female friends that I love that are funny, it's like just make a better
Yeah.
joke. I mean, it's like
Also,
like
saying the joke
you
that's
know
been made hurtfully so many millions of times, the fact that you're saying
yeah.
it doesn't make it, oh, you don't mean that now. That's bullshit. It just kind of seems like you do.
Well, and I
Yeah.
you're right. And I have a problem, like I can't enjoy Tarantino movies because I feel like he does a lot of things where he's like I'm post-racial, and I can and so in Django Unchained I can say the N-word every other minute, and I'm cool because I'm cool, and for some reason he gets away with it, but I'm just like, no, I'm not this. I, as another white person, I don't enjoy watching you try to tell this story. I'm not interested in
I
what you have to say about
agree.
this.
I agree because we shouldn't say
And
the N word. We just shouldn't. No,
we shouldn't tell those
no.
stories and try to claim to know what because we have for
I
years, and
know.
it's one thing like yeah, you could argue like in the 80s, like Steven Spielberg, I love The Color Purple, but if that story now would need to be told by a black person, you wouldn't want, and like same with like Tarantino's the Bastard, Inglorious Bastards. It's like he's not Jewish, and so maybe a Jewish person. Like I just feel like there are enough people out there who could tell their
Yeah.
stories, and you have plenty of your stories you can tell. Why are you being? And I know like you're being. I don't believe in like the ironic detachment of like because it's sort of like I can feel a
You
difference.
you
I can
totally
feel
can
you
because of
thinking,
the amount of compassion and understanding and warmth that's built into something. If it's the person saying their own
right?
story, you can feel that, you know? You can feel that. So,
Yes.
and then saying, oh no, that doesn't matter. It does matter. I think we're almost done. We're almost at 45 minutes. So I want to ask you, yeah,
Are we
wasn't
really?
that
That was
fast?
fast.
That was really easy, actually, to
That's so
talk to
great.
you. It's just like really
Yeah,
fun.
so
Okay,
easy.
let me ask you just one thing. Like, what, we're both in show business. We're here, we are. We love it, and we're stuck here because we love it. What, right? I mean, right? What
Yes.
are your, like, your biggest dreams for this, for you in show business? What would you love to happen?
I mean, ultimately, I would love to just keep doing what I'm doing on like a busier and bigger
Yeah.
scale. The rest, I've always said my dream is to be creative for a living, not necessarily to be like a star actor or but I love writing, I love directing, so I obviously I love acting. So if I'm able to continue to do those things, I'd love to get into more into directing on camera. The camera terrifies me as a director, but that's a big dream. One day that I would love to do that, and I just want to keep I want to keep doing what I'm doing, but I genuinely don't want to be famous in the sense that like I can't go anywhere and not have the life that I have now, because I'm happy with where that is now. In terms of, I don't ever need to be any more
Then you are.
famous like that. And I know people say that, but it's
No,
not
I know.
ever
I
my
believe you. I kind of feel the same way. I want to just keep doing interesting work that makes me, thrilled while I'm doing it. That's the high to me. You go, this
right.
is so great right now what I'm doing. It is not like being famous. What is that? I don't even know what that feels like other than, I mean, I've had it, but it doesn't make you really feel that differently as a person. Being creative does. So, well, I think you should get to,
Just you lose all sense of
yeah,
privacy. You lose all sense of like,
yeah,
and it's something that like I I don't know who, but like somebody that I know is very famous, like had to pull me behind a shrub. We were at a party just to say hi for 5 minutes because they were getting so hounded to take pictures and coming up and people pushing in front of me. And I was like, they just were literally coming up to say hi, how are you, and give me a hug and run away. And I was like, that's what they're
yeah.
used to, and that's not
No, and
normal.
it's
And then they have to act gracious. They have to
yeah,
act like, thank you so much. And, oh, hi, I'm sorry. I can't take, because if they're an asshole, then the story is so and so was
right,
an asshole. And it's like a thing where you're like, I would be miserable
right,
to
right.
like walk out of my house every day. So,
Well, I mean, I hope you get to because I think you're brilliant. You're one of the funniest people I know. And I'm so
oh,
happy to do this.
likewise.
This is such a funny, weird thing to do, but it was really fun to do this with you. And I can't wait to work with you again.
I
I
love
know.
it. Please.
Are
I know. When we
are
do
you
it
gonna
again,
be
I
in the
know. I
match
want to
game?
do homecoming communicator. I
I'm doing
am.
it on
Are you
Saturday.
in on what? I think we were in it together.
Yes, I do.
Me
Okay,
too. Me too. So we'll see
okay,
each other
so
then. We get to
yay,
be,
we'll see each
yay.
other in the match game. But thank you so much.
When does did you know
I
when will
think
this
it's
will
the
be up?
15th.
When will
Oh,
this
this
be
be
up?
up. I
Of
don't
October.
know. It's gonna be in the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
So, because I have another one I got to
Oh,
put up,
okay.
but I'll let you know ahead of time. Okay?
Oh, great. Okay, great. And I was going to tell people that are listening, if they're in LA, come see
At the
us in the
match
match
game.
game.
Thank you so much, Drew. You're
Yeah.
amazing. I love you.
Julie, thank
Okay.
you. I
Uh,
love you too. Thanks for having
it
me. It's
was
so much
fun.
fun.
See you soon in the match game.
Just say Julie, ba ba ba, yeah.